All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Shima El Khalil, and I'm a student information specialist here at McMaster Continuing Education. Today, we have a wonderful presentation for you called From the Recruiter's Desk, Insider Tips to Make Your Resume Stand Out. We have a special guest today, Carly, who I will be working with. She previously used to work with us here at McMaster Continuing Education, but has moved on and started a career in human resources. So before we transition the presentation over to her, I'd like to take a moment here and read off our land acknowledgement. So McMaster University recognizes and acknowledges that it is located on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, we do have a robust welcome agenda that we will be sharing with everyone. We'll be covering some of the most profound questions that we do see with students who are looking for work and employment. So we'll be nailing some of the resume myths, as well as nailing the basics for your resume, including some tips to help you stand out. You'll learn how to turn experience into impact. You'll learn the importance of cover letters. AI right now is a very big topic, so we'll be talking about how to use AI without losing your voice and about McMaster Continuing Education, as well as questions and next steps. So I'm going to take a moment here and I'm going to pass the presentation off to Carly, who will be facilitating us through the remainder of the presentation.
Thanks so much, Shima. Hi, everyone. My name is Carly. I am a senior talent acquisition partner. I have been working in talent acquisition and recruitment in HR for over 8 years, and I have worked in various industries from, the big banks, manufacturing, construction, healthcare, finance, you name it. I have experience recruiting from entry level roles to director level roles, and I'm excited to talk to you about what it takes to really build, a strong resume, a strong profile that really makes you stand out when you are applying to opportunities. There you go. So there's a lot of resume myths that, kind of need to go. As we all know, we're in a world where there's a lot of information that's exposed to us, and how do we decipher what's actually correct and what's the right way of going about it and what's the wrong way of going about it. So, the first myth is resumes must be one page. One page resumes work well for students and people who are in early career professionals, but experienced candidates often need two resumes to really adequately showcase relevant skills, accomplishments, and career progression. And the second one, creative resumes always stand out. While visually creative resumes may attract attention, complex designs, graphics, columns, and unusual formatting can actually really confuse an applicant tracking system, making it really harder for your resume to be properly parsed and ranked. So we'll get into more of what looks good and what's going to do well with an ATS and AI as opposed to what a creative resume looks like. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then lastly, AI can write the perfect resume. AI is definitely a great tool. It can help draft, improve, and tailor resume content, but it can't fully capture your unique experience, achievements, and career goals without your input. So, my apologies. So a strong resume still requires human review and customization. There's a lot of resume tricks and tips that will really help you stand out when a recruiter like myself is reviewing your resume. Keep in mind, a resume is actually reviewed in under 10 seconds. We look at this quickly. We are going through hundreds of resumes at a time, so we want to make sure those key things that we're looking for are there. So, one, keep your resume clean and professional. Avoid photos, full addresses, heavy graphics. Um, you know, Ideally we're looking for keywords, relevant skill set based on the role that you're applying for and the job posting itself. We don't want an exact match, just to be clear, it's not a copy and paste. It's those keywords and making sure that you're tying it into your experience and your skill set. And then, adding a portfolio link for creative roles. I think this is something that, we don't necessarily need the resume to look creative, but if you have links that can show your skill set, and your portfolio, please definitely include it in your resume. I think that is a great tool and a great way for people like myself and recruitment to see what's going on. Also, avoid common formatting errors. I think, avoid busy templates. There's a lot of templates that are provided on Microsoft Word. I would advise avoiding most of those. There's a lot of colors, they're small, it's unclear fonts. It also gets really lost in an ATS, so I wouldn't recommend that. Keeping format clean and consistent, and, breaking up large blocks of text for readability. Really, you point bullets are ideal. We don't need extensively large paragraphs to really highlight your work experience or your transferable skills. Um, and then really share your story. Briefly explain job gaps and contract rules. That could also be done in a resume. If you're off unemployed from 2023 to 2024 and it was due to personal reasons, that's something you can list in your resume, laid off, decide to stay unemployed while I, took learning and development courses, right? Um, Now and then really, use simple, recognizable job titles. We'll get into that more later. And really making sure your career path is easy for employers to follow. A lot of times, I can't even count how many times I've seen resumes where the dates don't line up. And before you know it, it's a puzzle for us to understand it. And that to us isn't going to make your resume stand out. So making sure your resume clearly highlights a story. So every resume really should include a summary or profile. I know I said no large paragraphs. Your summary and your profile should be very brief, 2 to 3 sentences at max, really just giving you a general overview of who you are and the value you can bring to a company. Of course, your skills. This is your technical transferable abilities, really matching those skills to the job description when possible. Um, and experience, your work history and relevant responsibilities with a focus on accomplishments and not just tasks or duties. And lastly, education, your academic background, including your degree, your program, school, and graduation date. Here's an example here of Jordan Smith. We have a brief summary. We highlight skills. These skills can be soft skills and they can also be technical skills. I've seen people who've done relevant skills, but then they've also done technical skills underneath, especially if you're applying for more of a technical role like a data analyst or a software developer, etc. So having that broken up as well also really helps. And then experience as well, making it very clear. Your title, like I said, very industry standard titles. We'll kind of tie that. We'll talk about that more a little bit later. And just the company you're at, the location, and the duration that you were there, and then the points as well. And then, of course, education, right? Education is really important to highlight on your resume. Um, I've seen people put dates. Just to be clear, you can, for education. I've seen people not put dates. Either or is fine. If you're a recent graduate and you want to highlight that, you can put it on. If you graduated earlier on in life, then it's not necessarily something that we're going to pause and think it's a red flag. So it's really up to you at that point. All right. And then, of course, there are optional building blocks for a resume. So this is, training and certifications. If you have any additional training and certificates that you feel are relevant to the job itself, for example, Lean Six Sigma is definitely a certificate that a lot of people attend to. And there's a lot like in the PMP program at McMaster as well. That's a program that really stands out. You can include that in here or include it right directly under education, right? Um, Projects, so work examples, that really show your skills in action. This is especially useful if you do have limited work experience. If you are just coming out of continuing education or university or college and you want to highlight your transferable skills that you've learned in education, this is a great part to put it in because there's definitely projects I know I partaked in and you've possibly partaked in. So definitely a great tool or a great portion to add as well. Volunteer experience, of course, this is great. If I would say volunteer experience, if it's relevant or has some level of relevance. So if you're entering The job market, for example, a marketing volunteer and you're trying to get into marketing, obviously that's relevant. So I would definitely recommend including it. And then any awards and achievements. I think this just shows your recognition. It shows that it demonstrates your performance, your ability to really stand above the rest. So definitely including any awards and achievements as well is definitely great. So, as we were talking about, we wanted to make sure that there's two types of resumes. One of them I wouldn't recommend, and one of them I would. This is a great example here. We have Olivia here. There's a picture of her, there's multicolors. Um, Things will get lost here. It's not as readable as people think it is, and it doesn't go through successfully in an ATS and through AI. So I definitely would recommend utilizing a lot of these templates that you see and really sticking to the right hand side. It's clean. Some people would argue a little boring. I think it gets the job done, and from a recruiter standpoint, it's easy for us to follow. And just to quickly dabble for the continuing education courses, it depends on the program that you're taking. If you're taking like a PMP or you're taking any other courses that are relevant to the job, definitely under education. If they're just more so courses that you're taking to just expand your skill set, you could list them under certifications. It really just depends. All right. So do employers expect to see your LinkedIn profile on a resume? It definitely yes, if your professional resume is or your LinkedIn profile is consistent with your resume. I have run into a lot of times people who present a resume to me and then they show me the LinkedIn profile, and then when I compare the two, they're very different or they're slightly different. It does pose as a red flag for us as recruiters because we want to make sure you are being transparent and honest with your skill set and your background. So I definitely recommend you making sure that they align with each other. Um, it is optional for entry level roles if you're just entering the job market. A LinkedIn profile may not necessarily be necessary. However, I do think it is still great not only to build networking and build those connections with people and really learn to reach out to people who have relevant skill sets or and if you're interested in politics, for example, government relations, reaching out to people who are in that background and having those conversations. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to post it on your resume if you are entry. Um, all right. And then, optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Like I said, I do recommend a strong photo. AI is great for actually being able to generate stronger photos now. So I would definitely recommend that. Making sure you're using industry keywords. If you're interested in getting to healthcare, finance, whatever industry you're interested in getting into, make sure that there's keywords related to that as well. Creating a strong headline that clearly reflects your career goals and expertise. And really regularly updating your profile with new skills, roles, and accomplishments as they happen. I think that's something a lot of people tend to forget to do. They have their LinkedIn profile and they think that's good. I would say a LinkedIn profile is very similar to your resume. It's continuous, it's ever evolving. There's always ways you can build connection and utilize it and really build it up where it stands out, especially when recruiters like myself are using LinkedIn to search for people, right? We search based on keywords and resume and LinkedIn profiles will pull up based on those keywords, very similar to resumes. So, what are recruiters looking for when reviewing applications? This is a big question I get all the time, and I feel like it's important to understand what I'm looking for and, other recruiters like myself. So, really, we want to see, we want to really see career progression. I think that's the most important thing. We want to see how your responsibilities and roles have grown over time. We want to see promotions, leadership opportunities, expanded duties, really demonstrating continuous learning and professional development. And I think that is also something we want to make sure you're taking that initiative to really try to grow. That's kind of where the progression is important. Also, stability. we are looking for consistency and reliability in employment history. Like I said, if you do have gaps and you are missing some time, explain that in your resume. Make that clear because it at least will show us that consistency and that story for us, right? Um, recruiters, long-term roles can suggest, commitment, strong performance as well. If you do change jobs frequently, like explain that. Explain whether it was because of growth opportunity. If it, there's a lot of roles that are contract roles, especially in this economy. So maybe just highlighting that. You have marketing coordinator for McMaster Continuing Education, and then in brackets on beside marketing specialist contract. That's just an example. Of course, it varies based on your own individual experience, but highlighting that is really important so we can see and have a deeper understanding of that career transition more clearly. And then relevant skills, right? Focus on the skills that directly match the job posting. There's so many times I've seen jobs where, I'm hiring for a tax analyst and I see details regarded to business development. And to me, that they don't align. So making sure if you are applying for a role, those skills have to coincide with the position. Include both technical skills and transferable soft skills. Like I kind of said earlier, it's okay to have relevant skill set. You can mix the technical skills with the soft skills if you don't have many technical skills to highlight. But again, if you are in a more technical role and you want to highlight that, you can make two separate sections to really highlight both. And then, of course, like we brought up, using keywords from the job description to improve visibility for recruiters in an ATS system. Yes, does an ATS pull jobs that are relevant to the job posting? Absolutely. However, it's very obvious nowadays when you can tell when someone just copied and pasted the job posting in AI and said, create points in my resume for this. It will quite literally mirror, and it's very obvious at that point. It's very AI. So again, you have to put your own personal touch in it. We will definitely go into how to do that and how to prompt AI a little bit more in depth as we continue this for sure. All right. And then really industry alignment, like tailor your experience to specific industries or roles that you're applying for. Like I kind of explained earlier, if you are applying for tax roles and payroll roles, make sure your skill set aligns with tax and payroll, customer service, and, having customer service is generally great, but make sure you're tying your skill set specifically to payroll and tax if that's kind of the industry you want to get into. Emphasize your relevant tools, terminology, and experience, and that can come whether you're explaining the daily responsibilities of your role or, like I said, in the skill set above at the top of your resume, and really show an understanding of industry standards or expectations. And then lastly, measurable impact. There are, it's you have to quantify your experience. And sometimes people will say, delivered strong customer service on a daily basis. Sure. Okay. However, but there are, even in retail, there are metrics that are given by the managers that you are allowed to, that you have to abide by. And, there are still expectations that are quantified even in a retail background or even in an entry level role. So being able to quantify that will really allow you to stand apart from someone who just says simply, delivered excellent customer service on a daily basis. So that's kind of what I mean by measurable impact. And really, metrics do really help us understand the scale of your work. If you are working in a call center, for example, and you are handling 50 to 100 calls a day and keeping a quality assurance of 95%, which those numbers are given to in call centers. It's just an example. I can definitely talk through some other examples later on as well, but making sure that you are, in fact, quantifying that and highlighting that in your resume under your points in that role so we can really see the success rate. So, exactly, a good example at the bottom there is handled customer service and then assisted 80 plus customers daily while maintaining 95% satisfaction rate. All right. So, what are the biggest mistakes res biggest resume mistakes that recruiters see. And it's funny because there's a lot of ones and a lot of them can be easily avoided. So we'll go through them right now. So really poor resume strategy, using the same resume for every application. Um, this is a tough one because there's a notion that you should be creating a resume for every new job you apply, and then someone says just stick to one. I would say if you are trying to branch off and transition into a different career, then yes, I would definitely recommend a different resume. Or if the job in itself is very different from like other roles that you're applying for, then yes, a different resume will be ideal. The idea is the resume should really match, not exactly, like I said, making sure you're not just copying and pasting it and creating a resume based on the job word for word, but as long as your skill set matches the role that you're applying to, then at that point you would make sure your resume matches that. Including too much irrelevant experience. Yeah, this happens a lot. I see a lot of people who, they may just not have the relevant skills, like relevant experience for the role that they're applying for. And that's also okay. But if you are looking to transition into a different career, it's really important that you match your experience to the role that you are applying to. Because realistically, as recruiters, we are looking for the experience to really match the role we're looking for. And inconsistent dates and formatting, like I kind of previously brought up, um, it needs to tell a story and it needs to tell a clear story. I need to understand that you were at this job from 2017 to 2019 and then 2019 to 2021. If there's inconsistencies in dates and formatting and it just doesn't make sense to a recruiter, we will bypass it. It won't be looked at. We're not, again, a resume is only looked at for a short period of time. So our goal is really to go through as many as possible and find the most qualified person out of that. And if it's hard for us to read, that means it's probably, you know, it's probably not the best fit for us. So just to be transparent about that. And then weak content as well. No measurable achievements, really listing job duties instead of accomplishments. Really overusing vague business terms without examples. I've seen this a lot, and I think people try to get away with this, especially when they're trying to enter an industry or a role that they don't necessarily have a deep understanding for. So, clearly explaining what you do so we can gain the full picture of what you've done in your previous roles. That's really going to help a lot. And then, basic things that are totally avoidable, like spelling and grammar mistakes. That's a big one. The amount of times I've seen people incorrectly spell a word that, especially when you're for example, business analyst role, if there's lots of spelling mistakes, attention to detail, so critical, right? So if you're not proofreading your information in your resume when you're presenting it, that test is kind of a red flag for sure. Big paragraphs that are difficult to read, like I kind of explained, bullet points, and it has to be. I want to be able to easily read what you're putting in front of me. And when it's too big and two blocks of paragraphs, it's very difficult for us to retain that information. And then we get lost. And then we're just trying to decode what you're trying to tell us. And that's not ideal. And then unprofessional email addresses. Oh my gosh, I can't stress this enough. If you have an old email from when you were a kid or an email that was just funny and you continue to keep it, I highly recommend changing it. First name, last name at gmail.com. Making a new email is so easy. And you know what? A lot of times I've heard a lot of people, they're like, well, I've had this resume forever or this email forever. I don't want to get rid of it. I'm like, that's fine. But maybe just create a separate email specifically for your job applications and when you're applying and you keep everything in one spot. It keeps everything clean for you, especially if you've been in the job search for some time. It keeps everything understood. So when you get a response, you know exactly where to look. So yeah, unprofessional email addresses is a big one. We don't, it's not, again, we won't necessarily look at that and say, assume it's a red flag, especially if everything else is crystal clear, but it's just highly advised to change it if you can. All right. So really, how can I make sure or how can you make sure you're translating your experience into transferable skills? Um, Really, that's pretty simple. There's a lot of things that you can do. Next slide. Really making sure that the biggest thing is job titles. So you have maybe you have a role where you are taking on a lot. Um, you are doing customer service, you are doing retail, you're doing hospitality, you're doing admin work. We we want to you can slightly change a title to highlight that, but you don't want to inflate or exaggerate your ti job title. So you want to really make sure that it aligns with what experience you do have. For instance, there's a beautiful example at the bottom there where it says guest experience champion. I've seen this a lot. A lot of companies have their own titles for roles. I know Subway specifically has like sandwich artist. That's not an industry standard job title. That's a specific to Subway. When I see that, I personally understand what that is, but there may be a lot of people in HR that don't. They're going to be like, "Oh, you make sandwiches." And it's like, "Well, no, there's a lot more to that. There's customer service, there's a retail component. You may be opening and closing the shop, which requires you to have strong attention to detail." So there's details there that will get lost if you're not putting the correct job title. And I even actually say if your job title is a weird, fancy one created from the company, I actually would highly advise changing that job title. Just really don't inflate and exaggerate that job title. Um, also, don't claim responsibilities you actually did not do and did not perform. Um, Once you go through the interview process, it will be very evident that you don't have that experience. And the last thing you want to do is kind of put a bad impression on anyone you connect with. I would say be be transparent about your skill set. It will come back to bite you if, it is obvious that that's not the case. And really, employers may verify employment history. They may verify titles, but again, I titles for me is one of those things that they're a little bit more op not optional, what's the right word? There's a little bit of flexibility in it. But again, if you are a guest experience champion, you can change it to a service representative or a customer support representative or something like that. But a guest experience champion, and then you put payroll administrator. That's kind of what we mean by verifying your titles. So it's just something to be mindful of. Um, yeah. Again, pretty much like I said, use industry recognized equivalent titles, clarify your actual responsibilities in your resume with the bullet points that you are utilizing, and really keep your resume accurate while improving clarity and understanding. All right, great question. So, do you need to include a cover letter? Although it's not always required. A well-written cover letter really can provide additional context demonstrating genuine interest in the role, and it can really help a candidate stand out amongst applicants with similar qualifications. The best approach really is to follow employer's instructions. If a cover letter is requested, submitting a well-written one really demonstrates professionalism, attention to detail, and really commitment to the application process. But if a cover letter is optional or not required, do not feel pressured to submit one. Many employers actually do place a greater emphasis on resume application and the interview process itself. If you are going to create a cover letter, especially like, if you decide to put a cover letter, my apologies, make sure it includes, you know, four key elements which are listed here. It should include purpose. So, explaining who you are, why you're interested in the role, and really providing context beyond your resume. Customization, really tailoring the content to a specific position or organization. That's really going to help you stand out. Um, for instance, if a company is very mission driven, um, if they're very mission driven and you have a personal connection to that, highlight that. That this is a great time to do that. You know, um, value proposition. So really highlighting the skills, experience, and achievements that make you a strong candidate. We don't want your cover letter to copy your resume. It needs to be an expansion of your resume. So really kind of highlighting stuff that you didn't have an opportunity to put on your resume, but you think are critical for that employer to know. And then obviously professionalism when it comes to a cover letter, keeping the letter concise, well organized, and really free of any errors. All right. Um, Yeah, so I pretty much highlighted this. I may have jumped the gun here, but yeah, making sure, again, explaining who you are, why you're interested in the role, and really provide context behind your resume, tailoring the content to a specific position or organization, highlighting skills, experience, and achievements that make you a strong candidate, and really keeping the letter concise, well organized, and free of errors. Do not do a cover letter more than a page. Make sure it's short, make sure it's concise, and make sure it's clear. It kind of gives you it it gives us a chance to really review it. All right. Okay, now the questions around AI. Can you use AI to write a resume or should you write it yourself? This is a really great question, and it's a question I get a lot. I think AI should really be used as a resume assistant and not the author. And I love the way that's put because it's true. I think AI can, your resume and your skill set can get lost the more you play with AI, the more you dive into it. And before you know it, you're going to come out with a resume that may not clearly highlight your skill sets. So AI should really be improving the wording, identifying transferable skills, and really tailoring your skill set to the job. Um, And it can deliver strong results, but you have to be really clear and detailed prompts, which involves a lot of humanization and a lot of your own work. So using AI, like it can be very, very helpful, but it has to come, a lot of it has to come from you and the way you prompt it. Um, so really, yeah, your experience, your achievements, and your personal voice really should be the focus and really should remain remain clear as recruiters are going through your resume. And then, potential risks of AI, like I kind of brought up, we don't want content to sound generic and robotic. Um, a lot of the times I see a lot of resumes that are quite literally copied and pasted. They copy the job posting into AI and say, create points that help me stand out in my resume. And they do a horrible prompt that results in just a very AI resume that does not show you measurable impact. It doesn't show you that personalization and it doesn't show you those details that are really going to make you stand out. And it actually may generate inaccurate information. I learned this very long time ago when when AI kind of first made its appearance, and I saw people coming and building resumes. I was just like, none of this is correct, and it's still the case. It can still pose issues if you are not prompting it correctly, and you're not proofreading it, and you're not really double checking what it's giving you. Um, yeah, and similar prompts will produce similar resumes. I've seen resumes that I've seen like 17 resumes for one role that all look the same. And it was very obvious that they used AI and they prompted it based on the job posting, and it will not make you stand out. Um, all right. So, how you ask matters, like I said. So using strong prompts will really help change the experience of how you use AI to build a resume and what also the end result will be. So, create a resume for a business analyst role. It will create something for you. Will it be tailored to the role and your experience? Absolutely not. It will be generic and it will feel robotic and it will stand out to us as an AI resume. So, an example here is like based on your experience in scheduling, reporting, customer support, and operation coordination. I would even say, even copy, your old resume or write down everything you did at your job, like everything you did. Copy that into AI and then using a prompt like that's based on my experience below in scheduling, reporting, customer support, operation coordination. Create resume bullets that highlight transferable skills relevant to an entry-level business analyst role. And I would even go as far as maybe even including the job posting, copying and pasting the job posting into the prompt as well. So, making sure that you are being very clear and specific of what you need from AI will generate a better result. And being specific to your skill set when you're utilizing AI will also be beneficial for you.
So thank you so much for that, Carly. I do want to take a moment here to chat about some of the stuff that we offer at McMaster Continuing Education. So I just want to let everybody know here that at McMaster Continuing Education, we value learning without limits. We have a number of programs that are tailored to your specific needs. All of our programs offer flexible learning options online. You don't need to come into person to complete any portion of your studies. They are taught by industry experts. We do have 70 plus programs, so there's something for everybody who's joined us today. We get a lot of students, for example, who want to come back, who are looking to upskill, reskill, or change careers altogether. We do have employer recognized credentials. A lot of our programs do meet professional association requirements as well, such as the PMP, which is for the PMP PMI designation, human resources, which includes the CHRP designation. We also value lifelong learning here at McMaster Continuing Education and hope that you come back and take courses with us over the duration of your time with us or throughout your life as things grow and change. You'll be able to explore in-demand fields that we do offer as well. We specialize in certificate and diploma programs. We also have introduced micro-credentials, which are a really neat way to back tag your skills that you've learned with us onto your LinkedIn profile or onto your resume, which can really help the resume writing process for you. And we also do have a number of support services for our students as well. Our essential programs are programs that I love to promote for our students. They are learning for professionals, which help change the way that you think and the way that you also lead. One of the really good things about essentials is it can be applied to every single job that you work at. So whether you're in human resources like my colleague Carly, or if you're doing student advising like I'm doing here at McMaster Continuing Education, you'll be able to earn a certificate of completion through 5 days worth of courses and passing all of your evaluation. We have a number of streams to choose from, including business, communications, innovation, leadership, productivity, and team skills. And this will allow you to gain the relevant skills needed to lead and make decisions with confidence, communicate more effectively, succeed in remote and hybrid workplaces, manage stress and workplace conflict, as well as build stronger professional relationships. And you have up to 3 years to complete your studies, which is really good. We also have some writing service skills that we do have here as well. So our writing service skills can help you take your writing to the next level. You'll be able to match with somebody who will help you build skills and learn strategies to improve your academic writing and write more efficiently. Understand how you can communicate your ideas more efficiently as well, which is really good for you if you're looking to need help with writing your resume as well. You'll be able to explore your ideas from different angles, as well as identify your writing strengths and weaknesses. So to start, you might want to take down this email to reach out to writing@mcmaster.ca, and their writing advisors can help you with some of the process of learning how to enroll and what it is that you can expect from them too. So some of the key takeaways, I will pass it back over to my colleague who will wrap us up before we get into our Q&A portion for the remainder of our presentation here.
Yeah, so I think there was a lot of information that was shared, but I think some of the biggest key takeaways is really your resume is telling a story and really making sure that a recruiter can understand that story and understand your value. I think that's really important. Your resume's goal is to earn the interview, not the job. I think that's a wonderful way to put it because the truth is when when you get to an interview at that point, it's you're gonna just re-highlight your skill set and really then you're selling yourself, right? Um, I think clear and simple will always beat the flashy, complicated resume and the templates that are shown everywhere. I think again, it just needs to be readable, it needs to be clear, it needs to, if there are gaps, there are things that you want to explain, you can explain them in a resume. And yeah, I think an AI can be your friend, but again, it's not the author. Do not use it completely and trust it 110%. Make sure you are proofreading what you are providing and make sure you are prompting it correctly to feed the information that's best going to work for you in the job that you plan on applying for.
Again, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Carly, you take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shima. I appreciate it. Take care, everyone. Thank you.